Good morning. My name is Preston, and I work part-time faculty at Lake Region State College in ag program, and then do precision ag services and insurances. And Lindsay Obermeyer, extension here, asked me to put a little presentation together on sprayer hygiene and proper tank cleanout. And so throughout my different at the college and with precision ag, I haven't really gotten used to artificial intelligence, and that's kind of been a buzzword for the last year. A lot of large language models have been released starting like last October, with ChatGPT being the biggest one. It's a 26 billion, has a valuation of a $26 billion industry. X or Twitter just released their large language model, Grok. And so I just on one slide here, wanted to make sure I knew what I was talking about on sprayer cleanup and used AI to put together part of my presentation here. And so just a screen recording of me typing in sprayer cleanout best practices into a AI or into ChatGPT. And in moments, I was pretty impressed with what it came up and helped me put together the outline for the presentation today. Some of the Let's go. So the real quick version on good sprayer cleanout that ChatGPT told me was read the manual, always read the label, and then wear your PPE, which sounds pretty good. You want to make sure you're protected as you're working with the sprayer and cleaning out the tank. Empty the tank, triple rinse the tank, add a cleaning agent, and we'll get into more of the different cleaning agents, and inspect clean components. Flush the system, dispose and rinse properly. And then it gave some additional tips, which I thought was kind of interesting. Timely cleanouts. You want to do this maybe you want to at least empty out the sprayer at the end of every batch, clean it out multiple times, even through that same season if you're using different products, dry granulars, make sure you clean out. Keep good records. Some dicamba has a requirement to for extend max. The dicamba on soybeans has a requirement in the label to document your sprayer cleanout, and then regular maintenance and proper training. And I thought that was just that was a perfect backdrop for this presentation. The one thing that an AI or ChatGPT doesn't do here, doesn't really humanize the presentation, doesn't tell the stories, it doesn't give much backdrop. So that's what I plan to do here with the remainder of the time. But I utilize this in the classroom right now within the university system and then education. A lot of discussion on students using AI and how to incorporate it in the classroom. So if you haven't used any of these, they are very interesting to use. So sprayer cleanout, things have changed a lot since the good old days when everybody was just using Roundup, had Roundup Ready soybeans, Roundup Ready corn, Roundup Ready canola. We were throwing in 32 ounces of Roundup, spraying it at 2 gallons an acre, and pretty much covering most of the farm. Then get a little bit more sophisticated, and every time things get sophisticated, they get a little bit more complicated and complex. I could probably go back to that Melrose 103 sprayer and figure out how to drive it to make it spray. I don't know if I can go climb into this cab and figure out how to do all that. So with just the operation becoming more complicated or sophisticated, so probably does the clean out and the hygiene and things you need to do. The other thing that has become more complicated is just what are we spraying on our crops? And so like corn here, this is just a screenshot from the NDSU weed guide on the different products that we're putting in the tank for, let's say pre-emergent on our corn. And maybe that's one of the first thing that sprayer is going out the door to do right away in the spring to spray a pre. And so right away, we got our traits that are in our corn. It could be glyphosate corn, it could be Liberty or glufosinate corn. So those could be in the tank. We could have our pre's in there, and so the pre's are listed here. And the one thing that when you're looking at these pre's, you're just adding in one chemical, or you feel you're adding in one component. But these pre's, if you look at the numbers here, 2, 14, 15, Lumax here is 5, 15, 27. Those are the different sites of action that are in that product. So that boils down to those are the amount of active ingredients in that product. So there's very few products here that are just actually one active ingredient, one product. I think there's one on here that Akron is 5, 27, and 27. So it lists site 27 twice. So there's two different actives that are affecting that weed in site 27. So we're adding lots of products. We're being a chemist. And then we get into soybeans, and whether it's a pre or you're going in a post, again, we're adding an unbelievable amount of products into the tank. You may feel you're only adding one or two, but within those prepackaged products, maybe you're doing broad axe, which is a 14-15 boundary to 5-15, multiple modes of action, or multiple sites of action, multiple active ingredients in there. And then we're looking at just the traits of soybeans. So we're adding things like glyphosate that we're spraying over the top. We have our glyphosate, and we're mixing that probably with that dicamba if you're running the Extend Flex, or you can be looking at glyphosate with 2,4-D or a list product going in the tank, plus mixing it with some things over there. Maybe it's glufosinate and 2,4-D, maybe it's glyphosate and glufosinate, maybe it's dicamba and glufosinate, and then I don't know, maybe we're to the point where we're just putting everything in here and we're getting all of our triple stacks, and so you're adding those products plus a pre or a post. So out of those sites of actions in both corn and soybeans, the most common ones I just added on here. Site 2, ALS inhibitor. Site 3 is a microtubule inhibitor. Site 4 is a synthetic auxin, which is your dicambas and 2,4-Ds. Site 5, photosystem inhibitor. Site 9, it's a Roundup. Site 10 is your Liberty. 14 is your PPOs, 15 long chain inhibitors, and 27 HPPD inhibitor. So things that maybe you're not focusing on daily, but these are all the different sites of action that are going into the tank made up of multiple active ingredients. So you're really playing a little bit of chemistry or chemists out there when you're loading your tanks. You have all of these different sites of action going into the tank. And then we got to look at your formulations. And this is another thing that used to be right on the label. The chemical would tell you the formulation of that chemical. When I say formulations to the students in class or talk to people, a lot of times they just think it's liquid or dry or the formulations. But within that, there are multiple formulations that we should be considering what we're putting in the tank. So some of them might be a DF, which is a dry flowable. So dry flowable is active ingredient prepared as a dry granular sized particles, and the particles form a suspension. So when you're adding these things to the tank, and a lot of us think that when we add them and we agitate our tank, it's all being dissolved in that tank. But a lot of these actives are suspended in the solution in there. So dry flowable is one. ECs are very common when you're looking at your chemical labels. If it's an EC product, ECs are going to be a liquid, and that's emulsifiable concentrate. And that is that active ingredient is mixed with an oil, and then there's an emulsifier added so that oil stays suspended within your water in the tank. So there again, you have suspensions, particles floating in your tank that, if you stop for a rain cloud and they might settle out. Another place where you can end up seeing chemical burn. Flowable, liquid product containing fine particles dispersed, suspended in the solution. So there's another formulation that's a suspension. Solution, that's that one where it's forming that solution. It can't be taken back apart. That, I think that's what a lot of us assume we're doing when we're mixing our chemicals, but not a small percentage of products are true solution. When we get into the soluble granules, so dry product, fine, medium size, the soluble granule will dissolve in water to form a true solution. And those are the affinities after a number of years, or now for a number of years, they have been a soluble granule compared to like the generics that form that suspension. And then water dispersible granule. And they're again, that's bended into that solution. So when you're looking at cleaning out your sprayer, you got to think that you're cleaning things out that were suspended in that solution. So as they're going through the hosing, as maybe they settled into your tank, maybe you just drained your tank at the end of the day, there could be some solid particles laying at the bottom of that tank. And then you come to clean out and you can't get those solid particles that are stuck to the bottom of your tank back into solution to clean it. So just things to keep in mind, I think. And then not only we're adding different sites, different active ingredients, Our different products could all be different formulations. We could be adding a water dispersible granule at the same time we have an EC with a solution product going in the tank. Then we're adding all your adjuvants, and this is another topic in itself. We got non-ionic surfactant that can be going in the tank, a crop oil concentrate, AMS might be going in the tank, MSO. And then the companies are starting to combine all the adjuvants. So you might have a HSMOC, which is a high surfactant methylated oil concentrate. So you can take in adjuvants and seed oils and mixing them. Then we might put a drift retardant in there. Or we could be getting a product that has all of this put together. Which, back up here. Let me see if this works. If that opens up. I had this link to NDSU's weed guide. Oh, it might be trying. The surfactants have gotten very complicated as well. And so we're putting in multiple products into the tank. Is Peter back there? It might be struggling with this. I might have just linked in.
Should be. Well, it's on Teams.
It should jump right to the page. But as you're mixing all these products, again, you might feel that you're only putting 3 different products into that tank, but those 3 products might be a combination of a lot of things. I should have jumped right to the right page here. But here's the adjuvant compendium that within the NDSU weed guide book. And you can see that some of these products that you're buying up that the agronomist might just be saying, here's your adjuvant added at a quart per 100 is actually made up of multiple different, we'll say, adjuvants that are going into there. Spray then, should be able to be back. Okay, so when we're adding all those different products to the tank, again, you're feeling like you're just adding a few. We can end up forming some precipitate within that tank being collected on the different screens. And when you go through and clean out your sprayer and look at all the screens, there are a number of screens usually in your sprayer. You have your main tank screen coming out. And then within every section of your boom, you probably have another screen going in there. And then you're looking at what size screen to have. I don't have a great recommendation on your micron sizes, but I will tell you some products are thicker than others. I remember back in the Prowl H2O days, having to run a coarser screen to allow that product to go through there. My recommendation is just be cleaning out your sprayer, going through and cleaning your screens. If you're seeing things like this, you're not agitating good enough and you're not cleaning out your sprayer off enough. And so what is that going to do then? We're spraying all those sites, let's say on your corn and soybeans as a maybe the first thing, you're getting gunk in your screens, you're getting gunk residue in your tank and in your hosing, and then you go spray a wheat crop. And you end up with what's going on with my wheat crop. And so do any of these sites of action have detrimental effects to the wheat crop? Absolutely, they all do. So even though you might be spraying some of those sites on wheat, the actives that you were spraying on your corn or soybean pre's could be detrimental to your wheat.
Please go on the other side. I'm afraid that you would step on my pen.
Do any of these sites of action affect corn and soybeans? Yes, so you might be having one of these sites that is you're spraying on your wheat, and now that active though has effects on corn and soybeans at different stages. So those precipitate that is forming on your screens, if they get back into solution, they have effects. Same thing on soybeans. All of these sites of actions that you're using amongst all your crops can contaminate, go on to the next crop and cause injury. Some of it might not be very noticeable. It might not be that you have a dead crop from your contamination in your tank, but if you go out there and look, you can find symptoms, whether or not it's in the veins. Sometimes in corn, it's just in the root system, in the crown roots and how they're deformed. And then we look at a slide specific for site 4, which is your synthetic auxin, which is your 2,4-D and dicamba. And that's probably the most common thing that we've all learned from the last few years is the symptoms of whether or not that's a drift or volatilization, but maybe that's coming from your own tank as well with contamination within it. So any of those site fours. All site fours will cause leaf cupping, will cause the veins to look a little different, will cause epinasty where you get the shortening of the nodes. All site fours will do that, whether it's dicamba or 2,4-D. A lot of times we just associate that with dicamba, but all site fours will do that. So then when it comes right down to like cleaning out the sprayer, let's get into more detail on that. Started at the beginning. What is going on where you're storing your chemical? You're storing your chemical at the farm. Is everything upkept, well labeled? You're not mixing, throwing last year's stuff into new containers. Be organized. The bulk system. I know years ago people were treating their bulk water at their farm with AMS. I know retailers years ago made this practice to stop, but there was bulk water tanks that were already pre-treated with AMS when we were using so much water. Well, now if you pull from that tank and you're going to go out and spray on your Extendamax soybeans, AMS is a no-no in the tank. That's going to cause problems. So just knowing what everything is, being well trained. Our tender units are getting a lot more sophisticated now. And so we have lots more hosing, whether they're put together commercially or on the farm. I know when I try to work on things locally around here and go try to get pipe fittings, I want to make the streamline pipe go and I can't find the right fitting. So I end up having to put an extra T or an elbow somewhere where I didn't want it. You want to make sure to eliminate all that extra in this stuff. We're putting multiple mixing cones on these trucks. And just like cleaning out your sprayer, you gotta be cleaning out those mixing cones. And so some of these setups, I should say, these setups are a lot different amongst farms, whether you have multiple mixing cones or you're running a batch boy type product. Here, a batch boy type product, probably a lot easier to clean out, stainless steel, but you have no access in there. You're cleaning out through a valve that rinses it, but you can't look in to inspect it. Summer's manufacturing is downstairs. They have a setup here. I think it's called the handler, and they're stainless steel, nice setup, cleans out really well. And with the lid, you're able to look down, make sure you can clean everything out, rinse out, make sure you got no dry particles stuck at the bottom of that stainless steel. All the hosing and plumbing is done professionally. There's no dips and valleys in any of that. And then here's our batch boy system. And the reason I put this picture was on here just because when you look at all these hoses out here and valves, you can understand the complexity of what you're trying to clean out, what you're trying to make sure it does not have any contamination in it. But then you look at a product like this, and this company has done a great job kind of hiding all of that madness going on. So if you're using this product, your mind might not go to, I need to make sure to triple rinse all this stuff. I need to make sure that I ran clean water through all the hoses that I may have used when I was using the system. And these systems are complicated. They're not complicated, I guess. They just have a lot going on. Multiple tanks, we're pulling from multiple shuttles on them. And so there's just so many places where contamination can happen. So I think some of these systems are being more, spend more time in training your people and making sure all of this is rinsed out well, let's say maybe the sprayer. So just on the spray tender, organization, clean the clutter, no unnecessary products. When you go to something like this, you might have products on there in the shuttles that you're not using every day. Just make sure they're not connected. Somebody can't open the wrong valve. Doesn't take much of some of these products to contaminate a whole sprayer. I got a slide on dicamba on there. So back to ChatGTP told me PPE was a big part of this. So I want to promote the college. The college sells, they program there, sells PPE kits. Miley's up in the college booth upstairs. And it's a bag with all the different things that you're going to need on the sprayer. All the safety items that is required on all the manuals. Students go through the manuals, the labels of all the products, figure out what is the recommended respiratory numbers, what is the mills on the gloves, everything is put into these kits that you need. And then they go through and they build a binder. So when I was talking formulations, if that's something that you're, oh, I've never paid attention to what formulation I'm using of these products. And the tank mix order that you put it in is dictated by those formulations. These these books that go in the PPE kit have the formulation of every product and then make sure that you're following the correct mixing order. In the past, when everybody was getting into crop consulting, their handouts, they would tell you the correct mixing order. And now I think all the software automatically puts it in the correct mixing order, but I don't think on the recommendations, it tells you, hey, we've already put this in the correct mixing order. This is how you should do them. So if you get a recipe and you're like, Roundup is 5th on the list, but it's the closest, I'm going to put that in now. That can really mess up your products and cause them to react. Happens all reflex, Flex Star and Roundup. You mix in the correct mixing order, no problem. Mix it in the incorrect mixing order, big problems. So the formulations are important. Read the labels. Every product might have a different mixing or a different cleanout process than another one. I mean, for the most part, and going through here is pretty standard, but make sure on the label it might tell you to use a certain type of tank cleaner, whether it's a detergent type cleaner, whether it's a bleach type cleaner, whether it's ammonia. Apply similar procedures to the mixing cone. So all that triple rinsing that you're doing on the sprayer, make sure you're going through and doing on the mixing cones. These mixing cones can get that product stuck up under the lids right here. And make sure you get that. This here has rinse going to it. It's got a ball in there. It's going to circulate that water around, should give it a clean rinse. Not everybody's set up like that. Some people just have a hose that they're putting in here, and then it's tough to get underneath that rim on there. These are good drain out cones. Those are recommended to make sure everything is being cleaned out of them. And then dedicated clean water source or dedicated water pump where you're making sure you're not recirculating something from your cone that you pass through your pump back in and using that for rinse. The other good part of that pump is you're able to rinse out while you're still filling the sprayer, which sometimes you get that sprayer, you got lots of products to go in there and you may not have had time to really properly rinse these out. So that dedicated pump helps there. Removing the mixture. So when you're done with the day, or you're done spraying and you clean everything out of your sprayer, drop everything out of it. There's, from what I've found from different manufacturers, anywhere from 15 to 50 gallons of solution still in the lines from when that sprayer quit spraying. And so you want to make sure to get all of that stuff drained out. And then I think a lot of people do that. And then if you have the suspended products in your tank and you are empty, they might go back and they'll fall to the ground, to the bottom, and then they become lodged there. So if you don't then just do a quick flush, clean water and get that out, even if you're going to go back and spray the same product, just not letting that sit in there overnight and sticking is a recommendation. And they call that ghost damage, where all of a sudden I go to a field and see something, hey, why are we showing symptoms of one of these different sites in these fields? And I can make it from, it's in the first 100 and so many feet within that spray pass. There was contamination stuck up in the container. University of Mississippi, they were taking these hoses. They ran product through them. They ran 8 batches, 8 loads through them. And then they scanned the inside under electron microscope in here. And you can already starting to see deterioration from them hoses just after eight batches. And so they're going through and just showing the difference between 3 of them. So this is a PVC polyurethane hose. After 8 batches, the inside microscopically is already starting to deteriorate in there. This is just a Goodyear synthetic rubber hose. And then this is a low density polyethylene blend, LLDPE, which didn't mean nothing to me. Now, next time I go buy hoses, I might look at some of this stuff. But that shows the inside of that hose. This is the scan of the inside of the hose. It's still smooth. There's no place for contamination in there. And so you might say, well, I have stainless steel on my spray. Well, absolutely. But there's still lots of places that we have these these hoses that can keep some contaminants in. So after you've drained your sprayer out, dilute the remainder in rinse. And just some things here that I found was, say you're carrying 150 gallons of clean water on the sprayer. You're done spraying, tank is empty, you're going to drop that 150 gallons into your sprayer. That 150 gallons, say you got 15 gallons still in the sump. Okay, that's a 16 dilution. If you were instead to drop that 150 gallons all in one shot, but do it twice at 75 gallons, now you're diluting that 200 times. So we've got multiple dilutions out to be able to dissolve, get rid of those your herbicidal solution in there. So it's a three-factor, three rinses is a factor of 216 times. They did a couple of samples here. After the first rinse, they were still finding 5% concentrate. After the second rinse, it was 1% concentrate coming out of the sprayer. And after the third rinse, it was down to 0.2% of solution that they were finding in that sprayer. So there's where you get that triple rinse. Add the cleaner. But we're probably going to the store and buying a tank cleaner. Is that tank cleaner an ammonia-based cleaner, or is it a detergent-based cleaner? Ammonia cleaner, what you're doing when you're buying ammonia cleaner is the purpose of the ammonia is to raise the pH of your solution. So of your rinse water, you're going to raise the pH, and that helps dissolve any particles that are stuck to the sprayer. Raising the pH just helps dissolve any suspended products, even though let's say they're not suspended anymore, they're laying on the floor, or they're in the hose. It's going to help break them down. Detergent is more like a degreaser, and that's going to help kind of degrease. We go back to everybody's heard that Roundup is a good tank cleaner. Roundup is degreasing that tank. So there again, if you have precipitate stuck to the bottom of your stainless steel sprayer, Roundup is going to flush that out. And then there's bleach. Some products require bleach, and the bleach is what bleach is going to do is going to speed up the degradation of that active ingredient. I won't say that it's just you add bleach and now that product is inactive, but it's going to help break down, degrade that. Chlorine, I don't have chlorine on here, but I know that is on a couple other labels. Make sure that if you are purchasing different tank cleaners, you're not mixing bleach and chlorine. It makes a bad reaction. And flush out your tank mix. I would record this and record your process, and you're pretty much done. I just have a couple of slides of interesting facts here. This was a experiment done by the Pesticide Application Technology Research. That's down in Nebraska, and they had a tank full of solution. So it was 100% full, and they were out spraying for 20 minutes. They emptied the tank. So they filled it with 10% of volume. So let's say it was a 1,000-gallon tank. They put 100 gallons in it, agitated it for 15 minutes, and they took a sample. They had dicamba in this tank. That's what it was in. Then they filled, used tank cleaner, and then as they emptied it, and the fill again was only 10%, so it was 100 gallons. They took a sample of that water. Then they put another 10% or 100 gallons in there, agitated it for 15 minutes, and took a third sample. Okay, and then they filled it with, let's say, what they were going to go spray next, and then so after the first rinse. And the first rinse was they put 100 gallons in and just agitated it and grabbed that rinse water and sprayed on non-dicamba soybeans. And to shorten the plants up, big effects here. Then from the sample they took after the tank cleaner was added, you could still see shortening of the plants and cupping. And you actually, to me, the second rinse looks, well, it is more cupping. Didn't lose quite the height in it, but very, very noticeable. And then the third, so then after they sprayed out the cleaner, they filled another 100 gallons in, agitated for 15 minutes, took a sample of that solution, and you still saw effects on the soybeans. And then they went and just filled for regular Roundup, and they filled the sprayer tank 100% full, grabbed a sample, and from that, and there was no effects on them soybeans. So these products are very potent, especially say dicamba. Dicamba, if you had a 8-ounce cup of dicamba solution, so let's say there was 8 ounces of dicamba solution left in the sprayer when it was done spraying Extend soybeans, and then you filled it up with, let's say straight Roundup, and let's say you were gonna go spray straight Roundup soybeans, that 8 ounces of dicamba solution would give you one of these two pictures. If you had 3 cc's of straight dicamba, let's say you filled the sprayer up with straight Roundup to go spray Roundup Ready soybeans, and you took 3 cc's of dicamba, Extend Max or Ingenia, and put in that sprayer, you're going to have the same things. So you think about 3 cc's of straight dicamba, that could be just underneath on your mixing cone, right under the lid there. So make sure you inspect everything. Proper mixing order, a couple other tidbits. When you're using atrazine, Jason Hansen kind of coined the 3-second squeeze with Dawn dish soap, helps keep everything going in there and prevent some of the problems with the filters. And then if you are using a lot of dry products and you can increase the pH of your water, it helps dissolve those dry products. And so there are products, I know one called Klein, and that'll help increase the pH, say in your mixing cone, and they'll dissolve those dry products a lot quicker. Again, it's going to dissolve them to small particles. They're still going to be suspended in the tank, but it's going to help break them apart, and they're not going to cause that. And then hot water. I'm surprised some of these trailers don't have hot water, but people are mixing less and less dry products. So I think that's, I'd say a hand.
On that, use on your soap also, right?
When you're mixing the atrazine into the mixing cone, to give it the 3-second squeeze is Jason Hansen's. And yeah, so I'm going with his advice on that one. Yeah.
Actually 5.
Is it 5? Maybe start out with 3. I'm behind the times.
Started at 1.
Okay.
But yeah, when the tank's completely full and agitated.
Add that.
Squeeze it in.
Yep.
I used to have blood filters and after that.
No, I've heard, yeah, it's an amazing cheat or hack to be able to do that. Some of the improvements that are coming on sprayers is the recirculation. So you're not going to get trapped product here. I think this has been hit on many times, and most people have eliminated this problem. And now your boom ends at your last nozzle, but you can get pesticide buildup there. It's going to come in, contaminate that sprayer. Go back to that 3 cc's of dicamba. You get product that's highly concentrated in there, you're gonna run into some troubles. Automatic sprayer cleanouts, great things, except for, if I had to go run something, I don't know how to do any of this. So just make sure whoever's running your equipment is properly trained, especially if things are automatic, that it's gonna go through and do everything that you do. If you have a mixing cone on your sprayer, to just make sure that these automatic things are going through that system and you're cleaning out everything that was there. So I think I'm a little bit over my time here, but just the highlights, PPE, know your formulations, know your equipment, mix everything in the correct mixing order, make sure to triple rinse, have patience. Patience is the biggest thing, I think. Make sure you dissolve all your dry products. And then at the end of the day, keep good records. So if you do have a problem out there, you have records of what you did, and you can look back and audit it and see, oh, I was using a bleach instead of a detergent. That maybe this product label called for more of a detergent. With that, any questions?
On that, there was a bunch of different ones. You said that the blue one was the best.
So that was I see if I sourced where I got that. Mississippi. This was a Mississippi study I found, and I don't know if they were using all John Deere, but all of these say they're John Deere hoses, and then this is just a regular Goodyear or Co-op hose, Visagard. And then what I found for information on the conclusion of the test was just for this John Deere LLDPE, which is the blue one, the green one, which is a PVC, and then the rubber. And so that is the green PVC.
was showing damage, and this was, when I read the study, it was just after 8 batches, 8 uses, and this is microscopic, and this is, but it was starting to deteriorate on the inside. And then this is the black VersaGuard synthetic rubber hose. Does it look like-
My hose is, there's this greasy seeping
Yeah.
all the way along on the outside. And the best thing that I've come up with that people have told me is from the MSO.
Right.
And so, but I've just got I mean, it's an egg spray, I know it's from like. Or wherever you want to pull up, but it's for spraying, but still.
Well, MSO, we do at the college to show the students what MSO does to the leaf cuticle. We'll put straight MSO into a coffee can, and then just as talking in real time, we can just watch that or coffee cup, watch that styrofoam coffee cup just dissolve right in front of it. So MSO is top on those components.
So probably that,
Yeah, so it's a LLDPE was what University of Mississippi came up with. Yeah, and again, this was just after 8 uses, so after 20 uses, it might start looking like the other one, but I just came across it, found it interesting.
this is. Necessarily the answer.
This isn't necessarily the answer. They didn't do this for years or anything like
They
that.
don't have recommendations.
They did not have, it was a study on the hosing and what they came across. But I think my takeaway that I want to promote here was we assume, we have stainless steel on our sprayer booms, but yet we're using a lot of rubber hosing, whether it's from our chemical pumps or wherever, just to not say change them out every year. But if you've had that chemical pump that you're switching from your Roundup shuttle to your dicamba shuttle to this, and that hose is 10, 15 years old, maybe just put that in a repertoire of winter projects to look through. And then same thing on the back of your sprayer, you have all the rubber hoses. And there are times where you see chemical burn in the field, and you assume it came from a contaminated sprayer, but the grower says, "Oh, I triple rinse, I do all of this stuff." And so you probably are doing things correct, but there are all these little places where those dry particles can reside in, and then you're putting the right product Roundup through there, and it's cleaning everything out. Just things to pay attention to, or put it on farm every.
Liberty seemed to clean it out more than Roundup, I would think.
I know Roundup has always been termed as a natural paint cleaner. Trying to remember my formulations if Roundup and Liberty is the same formulation. I go back and look at that week.
You notice the whole, livers here, so.
It cleans everything out, yeah, and then you're adding AMS and you're adding MSO in with the Liberty, so whether it's the Liberty doing it or it's part of that MSO, like I say, that MSO needs, you put straight MSO into a styrofoam coffee cup, and within moments that coffee cup is gone, eaten away. So, and you're adding a lot of MSO and AMS into Liberty.
Years ago, I heard someone recommend going along the rain, so cleaning thing. But, it's dry and that's, but it's kind of, so maybe that's that.
I would imagine the thought behind that would be the lowering the AMS.
Should it also be the ammonia part?
It could be that ammonia part as well. And the ammonia part, the ammonia tank cleaner, what that is trying to do is raise the pH and to make sure that if you have any solid particles anywhere, to help break them apart and flush them out. And before I got into all this, and was out of college and a batch boy on a sprayer rig, we just were given tank cleaner. We really didn't know if it was degreaser or ammonia or what was going on it. And then we were always afraid because we'd heard this neutralizes the solution. I don't believe there's any product that neutralizes your herbicide. But we were always nervous back in our young days that after you had your tank cleaner in there, to then rinse it out 2 more times to make sure there's no tank cleaner in there. But really what you're doing, the tank cleaners are either ammonia, which is raising the pH, a degreaser, which is, just a soap, And then bleach, which would lower the pH, help degrade the active, and chlorine. And to be honest, I don't know a label that says chlorine, but in all the time prep work for this, there was a lot of statements to make sure you're not mixing bleach and chlorine, because then you do cause a chemical reaction.
Do those kids from the college, the books, do they show, when they show the products, do they show the cleaner? Recommended?
So I did have a link in, Hefty Brothers has a really good little printout that has all the products that do specify what they want for a tank. I'll be honest, a lot of labels just say use a good tank cleaner. I think the big thing is for you to know that if you are using dry products, that an ammonia tank cleaner, what that's doing, that is raising the pH. If there's any suspended particles still in that tank, help dilute them down, flush them out, and then the degreaser. So, you know, maybe it's one of those things where you're rinsing out after a pre-pass, or you're switching back and forth, and then it's a rainy Saturday and you're like, I'm gonna degrease and I'm gonna just clean everything out, go take all my nozzles and screens out, clean them out. Because in the heat of the battle, I think that's one thing that doesn't get done every rinse, is pulling screens, where that's something that can be done weekly. Yeah. Appreciate the question.